The Stranger and the Message. A few years ago, on a late spring day, a soft wind, like the softness of a baby's sigh, was blowing through the trees in the park. I went there not expecting anything more than just a few moments of solitude. Oh, there were a few people there doing various things and the usual scurrying of the resident squirrels, but overall, it was fairly quiet. I had spent all morning at work, and for some reason, I'm not certain of, I decided to take the afternoon off to go to the park. As I sat there at the picnic table, I watched two squirrels playing on a nearby tree. I wondered what it would be like to live such a seemingly carefree life as they. Those two squirrels appeared to belong together, a bond was there, they belonged with each other. Oh, how I wished I had that sense of belonging in my life. As a child, and into adulthood, I didn't feel like I was where I was supposed to be. The parent-child bond was there for me, but I had always felt like there was something missing in my life. I took a deep breath, slowly exhaling, and watched the two squirrels run off to play elsewhere. I was so immersed in my thoughts I didn't hear my visitor approach the table. "Excuse me, miss, could I sit here with you?" asked the elderly man, his voice barely above a whisper. Oddly, I had no problem granting his request. I smiled and motioned for him to be seated. He sat across from me, his hands clasped in front of him, resting on the table. He had such a calm expression on his face. I saw a familiarity in that old man's eyes, but I couldn't place him, and was certain I had never seen or met him before. Across from me sat a stranger, but not a stranger, or so it seemed. He broke the silence by saying to me, "We all belong even when we don't feel like we do. We all have a place to go." I was taken back by his words and said, "I'm sorry, I don't understand what you are trying to say." "Even as a child, you felt that way?" he replied. I was stunned and could not speak, but still felt no apprehension due to his words or his presence. He extended his hand, so warm and soft, and gently laid it upon my clasped hands. He squeezed my hands with that hand and said, "He wants you to come home." And with that, he slowly rose to his feet and left. I sat there for hours, stunned. I thought about what he had said the rest of the day, and for days thereafter, but eventually I filed his words away. I never truly listened to the words of that stranger, at least, not until the day of my father's funeral 4 years later. Daddy was raised Catholic, as were my siblings, and I was baptized Catholic as a newborn. It seemed only natural to have a priest at his funeral. As I sat before Daddy's coffin, I saw the priest, but did not hear his voice or words spoken. Although the priest and the stranger in the park were not the same man, I heard that whisper of a voice of the stranger and remembered his calm expression and the gentleness in his eyes. Those words spoken to me 4 years prior I heard once again. This time I listened to the words, to the message, that stranger delivered to me that day in the park. "He wants you to come home." About a month or so after Daddy's funeral, I inquired and signed up for the RCIA program at the parish where I was baptized as a newborn. I made it to the place where I belonged, God's loving embrace. I realized there's a difference between hearing and listening, finally. I listened to the message from the stranger, and now I'm home. In Luke chapter 10 verses 38 to 42 we read the story of Jesus' visit to Mary and Martha's home for a meal. The two sisters had conflicting approaches to the visit. Martha was anxious and untrusting. Mary was thoughtfully listening and learning as Jesus spoke to her. Martha failed to recognize that a meal is temporary but time with Jesus and Scripture is a gift that lasts forever. We live in a Martha world. We're troubled, we're anxious, and we're distracted. We should pray and worship like Mary. Praying and listening to God is an important part of our life. Praying regularly will allow us to listen and sharpen our world, our community, and our family view. Like Mary, we will be able to focus on important moments while at the same time seeking His advice.